Hello and welcome. My name is Malcolm Tyree. This is the Lead Square Call. Today, I'm joined by a colleague in ministry here in the state of Texas, a fellow minister, credentialed minister for the Church of God, Lisa Pearson, who's the executive director of a pregnancy resource center. And today, we're going to talk about the controversial topic of abortion. It's a hot topic. How can church leaders move their congregation past the politics and the arguing about the legality of abortion into practical actions that help address the causes that lead a woman to choosing abortion? What can we do to move past the way that our power brokers have wedged it and made it, where it's you can't talk about it, all you can do is yell about it.
Yeah, that's very interesting. You and I had talked previously because it has become a political issue. But you will find those that are pro-choice, that are Democrats, Republicans on both sides that are still pro-life.
Can you say that again? I don't think a lot of people believe us that there are Democrats who are pro-life.
There are organizations who are called Democrats for Life. They are literally trying to get Democrats elected into office because they are pro-life. And you have some that are Republicans that are pro-life as well. They may not be in big groups, but you have people on both sides of the fence.
Right. So there's Republicans who are pro-choice too?
Yeah. They may not that right. Just like we had the conversation about a lot of church leaders who we think are pro-life that are not pro-life. Yeah. It runs on both sides. But understanding that even though it's been made into a political issue, at the root of it, and again, we're barring those who have health issues, those who have been raped or molested, those who are just freely sharing them bodies with the opposite sex. This is the part that I'm trying to get to. It's a sin issue, because if we are, again, going back to teaching our congregation, teaching our young people about the value of who they are and the sexual integrity aspect of it, helping them to know who they are, to get a grip onto that. And then if we're saying that we're Christians, that we're believers, then we are actually doing what God mandates for us to do inside of that. And I think if the leaders would push toward that, that would be a big help. That would be a big help.
You brought it up, the distinction between a person who is willfully engaging consensual sexual activity versus the person who's been raped, the person who is a victim of molestation and incest. How can we talk about that side of things? Because statistically, those still factor into the equation of who gets abortion. But from the standpoint of particularly the younger generation, that is the political talking point that oftentimes leads many of them into the pro-choice way of thinking, because they're of the concern of what if a woman is raped. And when I say what if a woman is raped, I'm saying that as a man, but many of the young women that I know are going, what if I'm raped? And many of the young women that I know have had sexual molestation or trauma in their life and are imagining, had that incident turned into a pregnancy, what choices would they make? How do we counsel a person who has, wrestling with the issue of rape or the issue of incest, and whether that pregnancy should have the opportunity to go to full term?
Yeah, that's a very sticky, very, very sticky topic. Even for me, with all of the laws that were being made, there were some things that I'm going, you should have, kind of done that a little differently. Anytime it comes towards somebody and it's a mom who's pregnant and her health is at risk, her life is at stake, for me, that's between you, your doctor, and God type of situation. But I literally sat in the room with a 13-year-old who had been molested by a family member. She told her mom, her mother called the police, all of everything was taken care of on the legal side of things. But the mom and the daughter together chose not to terminate the pregnancy. And that kind of goes back to the trauma of being raped, the trauma of being molested. It's traumatic. I've never been there, but I can only imagine that that's got to be traumatic. And then you think about the age of this young lady that I actually sat and talked with. This has happened to her. And now you say, let's go get an abortion. Let's terminate this pregnancy. We don't want anybody to know, we want to keep it a secret. So now you have this young lady who's been traumatized by molestation, traumatized by a rape. And now to have her to go through the procedures of having an abortion that are taken when an abortion happens. Okay. I mean, you may start off, if it's early on, you take a pill. Well, that pill is going to basically stop all the hormones in your body from doing what it needs to do to carry that child. They send you home with that. Then after so long, you take that second pill. Well, that second pill puts you into labor. And guess what? You do all of that at home. You're not in a doctor's office. So you're literally giving birth to a dead fetus at home by yourself. So you hear stories of women say, I was in my bathroom for so many hours. It was just a horrible state. I thought I had to go to the restroom and, it happened then, and then you look at the other procedures and it gets very detailed. So I always encourage people, before you make a decision, look at that. But now you're asking her to add trauma on top of trauma. One thing that we do talk about at my center is you can carry this baby to term, you can parent it, or there's adoption. There are many, many women who are longing to have a child and can't. Adoption is always an option, and people think of that in the old format. Oh, you're just giving your baby away and you don't know who's getting it. Things have changed so much in that arena. We get to have conversations a lot with certain adoption agencies that we work with, where you can have still communication with your child. You can send pictures, you can write letters. It's more open than it was where, your child is passed for adoption and then there's no communication. You don't know where they are. You don't know what's going with them. You don't know if they're okay. Things have changed. So, it's a sticky situation. It's a sticky topic, but prayerfully, the concept is to help them to understand that just because this injustice has been done to you doesn't mean that you have to also do that to the life that you're carrying.
I think that's a hard truth that we have to wrestle with, and that injustice happens.
Yeah.
Sin is no respecter of person, and not only do we, commit personal sin, but sometimes somebody's sin is committed against us, and we are the recipients of that. And I appreciate your candor about that. I want to just cycle back around and clarify with regards to the medical side of things. You had mentioned that there was there are the possibilities that a woman's health is personally at risk. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on maybe what a situation like that would be considered, so that way when we're counseling with people, we have a little bit more information about that, but also how to pray with someone who is navigating that kind of situation is something I think that the church needs to have an honest conversation about. So
there are many factors that I'm sure I'm not even aware of, Malcolm, where a woman's health, it's either we treat this or we take care of this. It could be an instance of someone having cancer, say, for instance, and, they're in chemo and then they find out they're pregnant. Well, you've got to choose between continuing with chemo or terminating a pregnancy. It could be something of that nature. Ectopic pregnancies, actually right now, that's a sticky issue, because I've heard of doctors who have patients who have ectopic pregnancies and they won't do what they would normally do, which is take the child because of the new laws that are in place right now. So it's a real sticky situation, even as we muddle through everything that's changing individually in the states with all the laws going on. It's a lot that I think is going to take us a while to actually muddle through to get some clarity on.
Yeah. And just for clarity's sake, can you describe what an ectopic pregnancy is?
So instead of carrying the child inside the womb, the child is on the outside of the fallopian tubes. And after so long, then, matters get worse and it causes a real intense problem.
Hmm. So in layman's term, the baby's not in the right pocket.
It's not in the right place, and it's going to cause health issues and medical issues.
Mm-hmm. And
yes.
As you and I understand it, Texas law is allowable for that or unallowable for that, or is it something that Texans and particularly in Texas, because that's where you and I live, are unsure about?
Yeah, I'm really not sure about it because it's changing so frequently until it's hard to keep up with everything that's going on.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of this whole conversation, is that so much of what we have understood about abortion has just radically been shifted, to the celebration of some and jeers of others, and we as the church, I think it's important that we not get caught up in over rejoicing or over lamenting, but really finding a way to empathize through some of that process and the challenge. And so just to kind of wrap us up here with our questions, how can the church do its job in ministering to women who have had abortions? As you mentioned, you've heard stories of women in the pews who've had abortion. You've heard stories of pastors' wives who have had abortions. Because most pastors are men, and most of us are spouting off of the mouth sometimes. And we say insensitive things, and we say inappropriate things, and we say uninformed things. But really, what do we need to keep in mind as we're talking about this issue of abortion, and how do we make room in the church for women who have had abortion?
Yeah. One thing that comes to mind to me is, as leaders, when we're faced with issues and situations that we don't know how to handle, have a resource that you can have somebody come in and talk to your people, someplace that you can send your people to so that they get what they need. For me and women with unplanned pregnancies, with abortions, I would definitely say find a pregnancy help center near your church. Be a supporter of that church. We're all nonprofits. So one of the ways that I'm able to sustain every day is because I have churches who partner with my center. They're sending monthly donations. They're sending individual donations. They're helping to support our baby boutique by having baby showers or diaper drives to make sure that we have the items that are needed for our women. But being able to say, okay, I may not know how to handle this, but here's somebody who can. Talk to this person. Or in certain instances, if you can get enough people, have a seminar for women who have had abortions, who need healing, who need to go through that process. So many of them suffer in silence because of the shame, because of the guilt. Some of them just don't know where to go to get help. There are places in your area that you can connect with so that you can help minister to the people in your congregation. And I know for us, we're faith-based, and most pregnancy help centers are faith-based.
So recognizing that we're allies is, we're in the same, sphere is an important thing. And regardless of one's personal history, it doesn't preclude one from being able to care and be compassionate for somebody else's is a major portion of it. Tonight you've helped me understand some things a little bit more clearly, and you've kind of given me some guidance on this. I'm just curious if you've got any closing thoughts or encouragement that you want to pass along to those who are on this, listening to this call or catching a glimpse of what it is that we've been sharing. When it comes to the church and abortion, what's for you kind of, that closing bottom line thoughts that you want to share with us?
Being available for your parishioners. Be available, be cognizant of the needs of your church. If you have young women, be there, let them know who they are. Again, as I've said before, the sexual integrity piece, making sure that they feel like they have a place to come to where they can be open and transparent and know that they can find help. If we're going to be the church, if we're going to be the hospital for the sick, let's be there for all the sick and not just those that we select to minister to help get healing.
That is a powerful closing statement. Lisa Pearson, Executive Director at the Pregnancy Medical Center, Pregnancy Resource Medical Center there. Thank you so much. Appreciate the time that you've been able to share with us.
Thank you for allowing me to share. It is a topic that we definitely need to talk about on a broader scale.